Welcome to Friday 13th YouTube channel Metalheads. Today you're going to be watching an interview with Italian metal band Screamachine. Now they've just released a fantastic second album. It's called Church of the Scream, which is a fantastic album. A great follow-up to the band's debut album released in 2021, also on Frontier Records. So I'd like to thank Francesco for doing the interview. Please check out the interview. Please share this interview on social media sites and groups on Facebook. Thanks for watching Metalheads. Be safe. More interviews coming soon. Thanks for watching. So, folks, we're talking to Francesco from Screamachine. Francesco, welcome to Friday the 13th. Nice to see you stole my backdrop.
I like it. Hello, guys. Thank you for having Screamachine here.
So I'm going to ask you some warm-up questions first, as this is the first interview I've done with you guys. As a bass player, was the bass guitar your first instrument, or did you play guitar or drums before? And who inspired you? Which bass players are your influences?
Well, this is incredible, but yes, I am one of the few bass players that actually started with bass. I was I fell in love with bass, listening to essentially it was due to my first metal album. The first metal album of my life was Kill 'Em All from Metallica that I listened in high school, and of course there was Anesthesia, Paul Tit by the solo from Cliff Barton. So I was really thrilled by the sound, because it was like a guitar but darker and with this fast with distortion. It was incredible, and I was not an experienced listener, so I thought that the bass was sounding like that. But then I progressing, I also understood that it was not like that every time. But that was enough for me to make me fall in love with bass. Then after, of course, I started also to play guitar, but mainly for songwriting reason, because sometimes with guitar it's easier. Yes, but bass it's my first love. And if we talk about bass player, I would not say Cliff Barton. I mean, I respect him so much, and he was my idol when I began, but I don't think it reflects so much in my style. I'm more I'm more near to Jason Newsted, if I have to say, because it's such an underrated bass player, but he expressed what I want from the bass in a song. It's huge. It's the heart of the song. It's able to give the power to the song, but also to pop up every now and then. And I also like very much Peter Bales from Accept, Markus Grofkopf, and of course Gitzer from Black Sabbath.
Okay, then was Ian Hill an inspiration from Judas Priest or Nibs from Saxon? Any of those guys?
I love very much. Yes, the bass Yanil, Yanil from Judas Priest. It's such an example for me because he's a great bass player, so underrated. Because when they found the sound, the metal sound, the British steel and so on, he understood that he had to make a step behind because they had these dueling guitars, and he was a great bass player. You can hear some intricate lines in the first album of Judas Priest, but then it became very much, glued to the drums because this was important at the times to leave more room, for the dueling guitar. So he did a thing that I like so much because even if I'm a songwriter and I love the bass, I don't want to be always in the front. I also prefer, to carry on the rhythm section and maybe every now and then, to pop up with some line or stuff like that.
Okay, then. So, what was the first band you was in before Screamachine? What bands have you been in for the people that don't know? What's your
Well, I
first?
think the most famous band I was in, because I've been there for 25 years, is Stormlord. It's a extreme epic metal band from Italy. I'm not playing with them anymore because in November, the last November, we split away. But we made, 6 album with. I think they had a good resonance. It's epic black metal, I would say. And we made a lot of tour worldwide, also in Canada and in Tunis. We made a few EP, 6 album, and also a DVD, a lot of videos. So you can find a lot on the internet about Stormlord. And then I had a few band. I started with some heavy metal band like Unicorn and Valor, because this was my first love. This music, the music that I'm playing with Screamachine is my first love, the heart. My heart is filled with heavy metal roots, and but I made a lot of experience. You know, I played punk, I played rock, I play hard rock, I even play hair metal. I really like to play, and as a bass player, it's always fun, you know, to find some new situation because you have to adapt. So you are never in your comfort zone. It's cool.
So when you said you was into hair metal and black metal, did you have like the corpse paint and the glam hair kind of going together?
Well, I have to be honest. When we started with Stormlord 25 years ago, we used to have corpse paint, and then we left the corpse paint after our first European tour because it was really a nightmare every night. You know, paint your face, then you go on the stage, and all the painting went in your eyes. I'm just kidding. We also changed a little our sound, so that's why we detached from that kind of image. But yes, I really like, you know, the look in heavy metal. I mean, it, it it has to be supported by music, of course, but it's very cool, you know, when a band it's able to express themselves also with a look, because when you are on stage, you know that people wants to see some show, not only people playing, because for this you have the CD, so, or the vinyl.
So how did you get together with Screamachine? I guess the name Screamachine comes from Beyond Fear album. Rip Owens' band, they had a song called Screamachine. Is that where the band's name came from?
I don't think so. I know that also Ripper Owens made an album called Screamachine, but it was not intentional. You know, I was just searching for a name that could be able to express, you know, in a very clear way the sound that this band made. Because even if I mean, I'm not so young, but the band it's young. We are just on the second album, and so for us was important to that the listener was able to understand what kind of music we play. Anyway, Screamachine is born in the end of 2017 from my idea, from my will to pay the tribute to the roots of heavy metal, like I was saying before, to this kind of music, because after so long time into the music business, you know, playing in mainly in the extreme metal, I was, you know, I had this kind of remorse that I was never able to release an album with the music that I like the most, that of course gets me into the heavy metal that still I love so much. So I am really lucky because after all this year in the scene, I had a lot of good friends that are also good musicians. So I made a few calls, and I was lucky enough to find, you know, friends that were eager like me to make a project like that. And for me, it was important, you know, to take inspiration from, you know, the gods of metal like Judas Priest, Saxon, Accept, early Metallica, Iron Maiden. But what I want to do is take an inspiration, but you know, put taking this kind of music in the modern times. I don't want Screamachine to sound, you know, like a cosplay band or like a vintage band. Of course, my inspiration is in 80s music, but you know, the production, the sound, it's modern. Also, our technique is just taking the best from the gods of metal and taking it to 2023, even because, you know, we had a lot of great album in 80s, so there's no need for another album that sounds similar to maybe Peace of Mind, or I don't know, Kill 'Em All, or Denim Leather. Okay, we want to start from that and to play music that also the people, you know, from the 2023 could enjoy.
Right then. So was Scream Machine the very first name you came up with, or did you have any other names for the band?
It was, you know, we were making a brainstorming because the song were born before the band. So at a certain point to say, okay, we have to name this this band, and we will making a brainstorming with the other guys, and I was proposing Screamachine. In the beginning, it was two different words, but then we checked and there was, I think, another band that has Screamachine. So we made only one word from it. I think it pretty describe what the listener will find when they will listen to our music.
Okay then. So where did you find the other musicians? What bands were the other guys in before Scream Machine got together?
Well, of course, the band, the lineup that was in Screamachine, I'm talking about the debut. There was the guitar player Alex Melen, that now is not into Screamachine anymore. He was replaced by Edoardo Taddei. He's the mastermind of another very famous power metal band from Italy called Caledon. And also Paolo, the other guitar player, and our sound engineer, because Paolo Campitelli is the guitar player and also the one who mix and master all the stuff from Screamachine. In Screamachine, he play guitar, but he was playing keyboards in Caledon. Then there's me, of course, and the drummer, Alfonso. It's a great friend of mine, very talented guy. He, made, he had a lot of band. He is pretty known here in Rome, especially Lance of Terror, Vidar, a lot of genres. He's also a very skilled guitar player. And the singer, Valerio Caricchio, is my friend, since when I was very little. And he also make the singer here in Rome for some other bands. Also, he has a very well-known cover band of Black Sabbath.
Okay, interesting. So your very first album was released in 2021 on Frontier Records. What other labels did you approach besides Frontiers to release the first album?
Okay, I have to say that I was lucky enough to approach only one label, that was Frontiers. That's because I already knew guys from Frontiers from my past, and I have to say that when I started this project, I was just thinking about music. Okay, so my intention was to make an album. I'm talking about the debut album with the music I'd like to hear that I'm not hearing anymore. So I was not even thinking that there was out there people interested in releasing it, because I thought that the sound was, too dated. It was not metalcore. It was not modern enough. But I knew the guys from Frontiers, so I was approaching them because Frontiers, it's a huge label, with a lot of also they have a lot of importance in the band with the 80s sound. And I was asking them for advice. I say, okay, guys, do you know maybe a little label or something like that that could be interested in this kind of music and Screamachine? And after a few weeks, they pull me back and they say, okay, we know a label, it's us. Do you want to release the album with Frontiers? I say, of course, that's no problem. And after I made this deal with Frontiers, I was not interested in other label, because I love this label so much, and it's huge. It has a lot of very good bands that I like. So right now our collaboration is very good, and I hope it will last.
Good, that's good, because I know Frontier Records back in the early days were very hard rock AOR, but they branched out to do power metal, progressive metal, which is a good thing.
Yep. Yes, they are very very big, very huge in our adult-oriented rock and hard rock stuff. They also used to have bands like Screamachine, for example, Primal Fear, or another band I don't remember now, New Frontiers or something like that, with a singer that now is in Skid Row.
Oh,
Um,
Heat.
yeah, I think anyway, yes, they had this huge audience that loves the 80s sound, so I think it could perfectly fit for Screamachine.
So the first album also featured a good friend of mine, Steve from Testament.
Oh yeah, yeah, Steve, it's a great friend, it's a great guy. I love him so much. Yes, the first album was filled with guest musician, because it was intended, like in my mind, like a joyful anarchy. So I was making this kind of metal party, and I want to invite all we had this idea, okay, let's get in touch with all our friends that we love, that we think that they are very good guitar player, and let's see if they want to enrich our songs with their contribution. Of course, after our signing with Frontiers, we were able also to keep in touch with also some um, very famous musicians like Herbie and like Steve. And of course, as a bass player, I was heavily influenced by Steve DiGiorgio, and I respect him so much. So for me, it was so cool to know him and to understand that it's such a funny guy. So we chatted a lot, we make a lot of laugh together, and it was absolutely fantastic. He gave us his performance on Wisdom of the Ages, and I still think it's one of the best songs on our debut album.
So if Steve played bass guitar on your album, what did you do? Did you not play the bass guitar?
It's in a song we have me and Steve playing, because we have this song on the debut album called Wisdom of the Ages. It's a song, a mid-tempo song, with a quiet beginning. It has a savage feeling, and in the beginning, there is kind of very slow and acoustic feelings. So I asked Steve if he could play some lick, on the fretless bass, which I'm not able to play. And then when the song kicks in, I start playing it. So we share the song.
Okay, interesting, because you also had members of Stormlord on the album and Simone from DMG. Did Simone produce the first album?
No, but he gave us a lot of good advice, because Paolo and Simone are very good friends. And of course, we respect so much Simone as a sound engineer. He is incredible. And so Paolo asked some advice also on the second album to him. Maybe he make him listen to the mix, to have some advice. And he's such a great guy. And his solo on the debut album, it's incredible. It's
Okay,
such a talented musician, Simone.
so the first album, what songs are your favorites?
On the first album,
Yeah.
my favorite song is Demon Dome, because it was the first song of the album, the first video, and the first song that I wrote for Screamachine. So I really, I love it so much, and I think it still express very well the idea that there is behind the sound of Screamachine. So maybe if you ask me, what songs do you want people to listen to understand Screamachine, I still would say maybe Demon Dome.
Okay, is this a band or is it a project? Because you mentioned about being a project. Have you become a
Absolutely a
band
band.
now? Is it a band?
Absolutely. It's absolutely a band now. It started, it started as a project because it was just starting, with the will to play this kind of music. So we didn't know. But right now we have two album released. We may also play some live. We know each other better. And yes, we are all very focused on Screamachine as a band. We also played in Rome a few weeks ago, and in autumn we're gonna play some other dates. So yes, for us it's very important that people understand that this is a band. And right now this is my main band, so I'm really focused on Screamachine.
Okay, then you did an EP called Borderline. Was it a live EP or is it? Because the cover looks live, doesn't like the pictures are live of you on stage.
Yes, we played live.
Yeah.
We played live even right after the pandemic stuff. It was not easy, but we were able to play some live shows in Italy, and more will come in the future. So if you see, we also have released an EP called Borderline. They digitally released the True Frontiers Records, and the cover, it takes inspiration for the first album of Van Halen. There is this square with our picture playing live. This is because for us it's very important that people understand the Screamachine loves to play live, because you do not approach this kind of music if you don't want to play this music up to 11 on stage and make the people deaf.
So the first album cover, who did the artwork for the first album? Is it the same artist who did the new album?
The cover?
Yeah.
No, the two the oops, sorry, okay, can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, the screen went black. No, the first album, if I remember well, the cover was made by Gustavo Sacel is a Mexican guy. He made also a cover for some album of Machine Head or stuff like that. On the second album, we have Stan Decker.
Oh yeah, I know Stan, yeah.
Yes, I'm very well. I was searching, for my direct rigs, because on the first we have this mascot. You see the monster that there is in the first album, also on the second one. We call it the Metal Monster, of course, like her song. And we developed this monster on the first album, with Gustavo. But then I wanted something more visual, more like a comic, more like a, the cover of the first Iron Maiden album. And I was searching for some artists that I like so much, and I find Stan that was absolutely perfect. So I was talking with the label, say, okay, I really would like to keep in touch with this guy. And they say, what's the problem? He made a tons of covers for Frontiers, and I didn't know that. So it was really easy, to talk with him. It was fantastic to work with him. I really hope to work with him also in the future, because he was so good in developing the character of the monster. I give him some idea, also some sketch, and he made, I think, an incredible artwork.
When I look at the artwork for this new album, it kind of reminds me of Iced Earth and Mystic Prophecy. Do you agree?
The sound, you mean?
No, the picture, the artwork
The
itself.
picture.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. It's that kind of style, They all take inspiration maybe from Derek Riggs or from the Manowar cover. Yes, also could be from the first album, the first half of the album of Ice of the Earth. And I think it fits. It fits. For me, the cover, it's the artwork. It's still very important. I know that we live in a period of liquid music. Most of the listeners, especially the young one, are not used to look at the cover, because they are listening through the streaming service, and this is good. I don't want to sound like a boomer. This is good, because in that way, for example, we are able to have a lot of people following Screamachine, much more than when 20 years ago, they were obliged to find the physical copy of the album. But on the other side, I was born, musically born, listening the vinyl or the CD, taking it in my hand, looking at the cover, and then imagining it while listening to the music. So for me, it's still very important. My album has a strong visual. So that's why we work so much also on the artwork. For us, it's very important. When you have in your hand the CD of Screamachine, it has to be good, to be beautiful, at
Right.
least for my tastes.
Okay, so the title of the new album, Church of the Scream, who came up with the title?
I came with the title, even if the lyrics, 90%, 99% of the lyrics are written by a singer, Valerio Caricchio. He's such a good lyric writer. And I know, because I was the lyric writer in Stormer for 25 years. So if I'm not doing this anymore, it's because I found someone better than me. But Church of the Scream, it was the only title that I had in my mind, together with the Crimson Legacy. And the title is born before the song. So I really, imagine it's my tribute to heavy metal, of course. We kind of like to play with the cliche of heavy metal, but with respect. We don't want to be grotesque, okay? But you also like to play, with this style of heavy metal that we love so much. Once again, I repeat, with early Manowar, Iron Maiden. So Church of the Scream, it's our tribute, because, the people that loves metal, that there is this kind of brotherhood, that we recognize each other. So it's like to be in a church, with all following the same cult, the cult of heavy metal. So the cult of the scream, of the loud music, of the loud heavy metal music.
Okay, then. So you've got like 10 songs on the album. Was the album produced by Paolo? Did he produce the master of the album? Like the
Yes,
first one?
also like the first one, and this is very important for us. Paolo is such a skilled sound engineer, and he's becoming better and better. And this is very important for us, because the production is in house, so we have all the time in the world to really work on the mix, in order to make the album see how we want it, also to record, to arrange. It's more quiet, because it's up to us. Of course, we have the deadline, we have to release the release date and stuff like that, but we can lose a lot of time on the album thinking about it will sound, and maybe if there is something that we don't like, we can change it later. So I really like how the sound of the second album went. I really
Do you
like
have
it.
any guests? Do you have any guests on this album?
Well, this is a very important question for me to clarify, because on the first album we had this tons of guests, because I told you, in my mind it was like a metal party. I want the people that I like the way they play, to leave their sign on Screamachine. But when it comes to the second album, we know each other better. The band was tight. we understood better what Screamachine was. So for us, it was important to say, okay, let's not put any guest in the next album, even if there is one guest, but we'll come to that later. Let's do not put any guest, because first of all, I want the people to hear 100% Screamachine. On the second, I love very much to have guests on my album, because they, of course, change a little the songs where they are in. But I also don't want to be seen as the band with guests. So every album maybe has to have 10 guests. No, this is not about Screamachine. Screamachine, it's me and the other four guys. So maybe in the future, of course, I always love to have some people coming on the album every now and then. But in this case, for us, it was important to make the people listen 100% to Screamachine. But there is one exception. We have only one guest on the last song, called The Epic of Defeat, which is quite different from the rest of the album. It's an epic song. It takes inspiration also from pagan music, from epic music. And, you know, I am a great friend. 20 years ago, I started to be friend with Davide Damna Moras, the lead singer of Elven King. We are a very close friend. I also shared with him a side project 20 years ago called Leprechaun. And every now and then, you know, in the last 20 years, we hear, or maybe we write, okay, we have to do something together. Yes, it's very important. We have to do something together. But we were always too busy. Of course, Elven King, it's such a huge band. I was very busy with Stormlord, but we always keep in touch. So I wrote this song, this very strange song for Screamachine, so epic, so particular, with influences also from pagan black metal, if I would say that. And, you know, there is the special in the middle of the song. There is a part where I thought it was perfect to have Davide Damna there. So I wrote him and say, okay, time has come for us to collaborate. You can't say no. And he said yes. And he was such a great guy, because, you know, we are talking about October or November. And he was just closing the new album of Elven King. He was right in the middle of the of recording the voice. So he was so busy, but it also found the time to do that. So for me, it was really important, because I love him as a singer, I love him as an artist, and I love him as a friend. So it's the Epic of Defeat right now. It's one of my favorite songs also for this.
Okay, so how long did it take to record this new album?
What?
How long did it take to record this new album?
Okay. Okay, let's say that the recording, most of the recording was made in our home studio. So, of course, the drum, Paolo was mixing, mastering, recording his guitars, and recording the vocals and also the drums. But for example, I have my own studio where I record the bass. So, you know, we had the chance to record every now and then. And then when it was time to have all the music, it began the mixing and the mastering. It was faster. So I would say from September to November, but not all the month. The heavy work was made in November.
Okay, so what's your favorite songs from the new album? Do you have any favorites?
I think that, you know, when a thing that I love on the album is to have very different sounding song. I mean, for me, it's important that you are able to recognize the style and the soul of a band. But it's also very important not to have all the songs that sound the same. So that's why I've always tried on the album where I play, you know, to have songs that have different, not style, but different colors. And I think this is also the case for this album. If I have to say the songs that I love the most, I would say the title track, The Church of the Scream, and The Epic of Defeat. But I think that you could find a lot of sides of the traditional metal sound, because, for example, if you want heavy song, you have Church of the Scream, you have Best Case Scenario. If you want more complex song, you have The Epic of Defeat. If you want maybe hard rock vibe, you have Night Asylum. If you want classic speed metal, maybe also close to power metal, you have the Crimson Legacy or Metal Dawn. So it depends on the vibe on the day.
So how would you describe your music? Would you say it's power metal, speed metal? What's your definition of your music?
We have a definition, and it's loud heavy metal music. For me, this is very important. It's, you know, a kind going back when there was only heavy metal. Right now, you know, every band needs at least 10 adjectives to describe the song. You know, incredible, apocalyptic, bombastic, epic metal with a, okay, we play heavy metal. We play heavy metal like in the beginning. And that's why I love so much to explore the boundaries of heavy metal with Screamachine, because to say heavy metal, it's like to say rock. Rock would mean everything from Red Hot Chili Peppers to the Stones to, I don't know, to Primal Scream to Nirvana. Heavy metal is the same thing. I think that Screamachine has a very recognizable sound, but they also like to explore all the border of the boundaries of metal. So when maybe I want to make a more epic song, make the Epic of Defeat. If I want to play heavier, maybe incorporate some element from thrash metal. If I want to stick to the classic heavy metal, here comes Occam's Failure. So this is very, it's very cool, you know, because I have the chance to play music with a much different vibes.
Okay, then. So when are you going to be touring? Do you think there's any plans to tour this year?
Okay, right now, of course, we are moving. We are playing in Italy. So in the autumn, after summer, we are gonna play some shows here in Italy. And then, of course, I'm writing. I'm trying to find some promoter, also maybe in Germany, in Austria, in the country near to Italy, and let's see also for some festival. You know, right now it's not very easy to play in a foreign country because the promoter are scared. You see, a lot of very huge bands are canceling the tour in Europe because you know the costs are high. So of course the promoter maybe it's a bit scared of investing money on a young band. So it's important for us, you know, to find the right situation because of course we are a rock and roll band, so we are not searching for good money. We came, we play, it's okay, but of course we have to balance this also. So we are also trying to play outside Italy, and we hope we're gonna do that. We have some situation. I hope that will go on.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you for doing this interview. Do you have anything to say to the people watching this on YouTube?
Well, I really hope they will find the time, you know, to go deeper on this on Screamachine music, because as I was telling you before, right now we have this kind of music flows, you know, that came from streaming, from internet. It's cool, but it's also very difficult to focus. But they have to keep in mind that every one of these albums, this album here takes a lot of work, a lot of passion. So it's very important to support the band, even to find the time to listen to the band, you know. So you can find Screamachine on YouTube, you can find it on social. We are very happy to interact with people. You can find it on streaming service, on Spotify. So just waste 5 minutes of your time and listen to us. Maybe you will like it.
Right, I'd like to thank you for doing this interview. Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much for having us here.
Keep in touch.
Perfect.
Cheers,
Thank
man.
you so
Take care.
much.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.